Good morning, Ecom. How are you today?
I'm just playing. Good morning, Ecom. Hope everybody's having a great day today. It's just gonna be yours truly. And I realize now that I think I may have actually wore this shirt last week when I recorded, but I'm wearing it again. It's not part of a uniform. You're not gonna have an intangible commerce uniform going on. That's not how we do business. But I do have some news to jump into, and I think everyone's probably heard or at least is familiar with the Panama Canal and the ridiculous traffic that's built up now at the canal itself. There was like I think 130 ships that are waiting there off the port, and I posted a picture on LinkedIn of this, so those of you who follow me there can go check that out. But it is as far as the eye can see, just ships and vessels, and everybody's just waiting to get in. So I started looking, and I was curious. Obviously, I know how canals work, but if you're not familiar with this, just some quick facts, right? So the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean, my first thought was, why don't we just open it? Like, why can't it just be open, right? Like we got ocean on both sides. Why not just open the bad boy? Well, the two oceans actually sit at different depths, if that makes any sense at all. One is actually higher than the other. So it would just basically create a raging torrent of a river if you were to open the two. And eventually it would have global impact. So it's pretty interesting stuff if you really get into that. But what happens is the ships pull in, right? And they're at a certain water level. The water fills up. They go to the next one. The water fills up and they come back down. So it's like a ladder, right? The ship goes up and back down. 50 million gallons of water to do all that. 50 million gallons of water is how much it takes to move one vessel through. And they do about 40 a day. And all that is fed from a local lake, Ganton Lake, I think it's pronounced Gaton. You have to correct me on that. Somebody needs to fact check that. If it's is it Gaton Lake? What's he actually talking about here? I think he made that up. I may have made that up. Gatton Lake is the lake that feeds not only that, but also like half of the country. Some 2.2 or 2.3 or something like this million people get their water. And the problem that they're having here at the canal is drought. There's been a massive drought. The lake levels are plummeting, and they simply can't move as much through as they normally would do. And so there's restrictions in place, and those restrictions are backing up traffic. You know, it goes without saying that if the highway is blocked, you're not going to get through. So in this case, they're not getting through. The problem with this, I think, goes a little deeper. It's like, what if the rains don't come? We're expecting at the end of this El Nino, which I honestly don't know much about what an El Nino is. So if I Google that very quickly off screen so nobody can see what I'm doing because I'm quite sneaky. It's a weather pattern associated with a band of warm water developed central. So this will basically when it starts to cool in December, the winter, our winter, is when the rains should come. So between here and there, this problem looks like it's going to persist. I mean, I hope there's like a governing body that considers the drinking water levels to the local population. You know, I know also some salt water does enter the lake apparently during this process as the lake levels fall. You ever boil a pot of salty water, right? The less water, the more concentration of salt, the saltier it gets. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm not some uber environmentalist who really understands all that, but it seems to me that it's like the pot of boiling water theory, whereas it gets smaller and condenses like a sauce, saltier. You put water in it, it's less salt. I don't know. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not. But something to think about. In the meantime, goods and prices of all this stuff again are going to go up, right? That's just yet another thing that's hitting our economy. Something has got to give. It's back to back. And I've talked a lot about this whole Timu thing. And it's like, hey, we've got this direct attack on our U.S. economy. Congress has taken notice of that, by the way. There's not much to report on right now that I've seen. It's just been in conversation about how do we attack that problem, and should we put in new tariffs and things on those goods, because they're skirting underneath minimums, right? If it's like, hey, if it's under a certain minimum amount, then it's not taxed the same. It's like fraction of a penny versus $1. So there's a big difference in how imported goods have traditionally been treated. So I think we're looking into that. But when we look at the Panama Canal, it's yet just another way that goods are transferred from primarily Japan, China, and the United States through this canal. And right now, our economy is impacted significantly by so many other factors. It's like we've got yet another thing that's happening. So, with any luck, these companies that normally hit the canal will figure out alternative routes, and the supply and demand chain won't be broken too much. But, like most things, as we all know, as I'm saying this, I'm sure many of you are thinking, it's just a matter of time before the goods, in some way, go back up. As supply drops, demand maintains or increases. In some ways, it's increasing. Depending on the types of goods they are, as we head into peak season as well. For everybody out there, October, November, those are the biggest months for Q4 sellers for e-com goods. And we are right up on that. I mean, we are right up on that right now. It's like the goods that are coming in now are going to be prepped, staged, and sold October, November. I mean, this is what folks are getting ready for. And this is not going to be very beneficial. Let's segue that into something that I think is actually quite interesting. I'm going to post about this on LinkedIn too, because I want to have a separate article that just talks about this issue, because 5 marketplace sellers and 4 marketplace companies. So this is 5 individual sellers and 4 companies on Amazon, specifically Amazon, have been sentenced for price fixing. And one of them is spending 18 months in prison. That's quite a bit of time in prison, and all of them have received fines. And it is of the strangest thing too, because you wouldn't necessarily think in today's age of this being a big thing, but it's DVD sales of all things. DVDs. It's like, I don't know who sat around and went, hey, you know what, Bob? I'm going to build a business on DVD sales. You want to come in on that? And Bob's like, sure, I'll go. Yeah, I'll do that with you. Let's do that together, you and me. DVD sales, DVD empire. So they basically, what they've done is they've gone on and they've colluded with one another and said, hey, your company sells DVDs, my company sells DVDs. We're doing this together. How about this? Let's fix a price. Let's fix a price above market value, which is strange. They kind of played the long game. The way I'm reading this, and this is from the Department of Justice website, Office of Public Affairs. Ooh, very official indeed. And it reads and goes on to explain how these folks conspired to fix prices in a federally corrupt way, because price fixing is a federal crime, for those of you who didn't know. Any of my listeners out there that are currently in the price fixing business, it's time to close up shop, because the feds will be on you, apparently. So let's see here. What were they doing? They came together and they decided that they wanted to raise and maintain the prices of DVDs and Blu-rays sold through Amazon Marketplace storefronts, resulting in those products being sold at collusive and non-competitive prices. So effectively, they were just cornered the market. There wasn't a whole lot of people doing it, I'm guessing. And these guys said, hey, you know what? Let's come together and let's raise our own market price. Okay, well, who sets that market price? I don't know. Maybe there's an agency or entity out there that sets what a market price is. I know that coming together and saying, hey, competitors, ABC, we're the only ones doing this in any significant way. Let's set a price. I mean, that's mafia, right? That's like, it's like some Don Corleone type stuff. They're going to come together and fix the prices. I really wanted to do that in like a Godfather kind of accent, but I don't want to offend anybody. So for those of you that are out there hearing me saying it in the Godfather way, It's like let's come together and make the price. It be whatever we want it to be. Oh man, off the rails without Dave here to guide us back. We're wishing him well. He's traveling. So price fixing on Amazon, the canal, the Panama Canal is all blocked up. Lots of ways that our economy is being impacted, and you hate to see stuff like what's happening here with this price fixing. Not Amazon's fault, I guess. You'd think, though, I mean, call me crazy, but Amazon, from a seller central point of view, man, these guys are on everything. If I have a description out of place, they're gonna flag me. If I have a product without certain parameter of this, that, they're gonna flag me. They're literally flagging everything. But they can see that these goods are being sold at prices that aren't in line and aren't on par with what they should be. So why the heck doesn't Amazon come in and say, "Hey guys, you're not going to do that, or we're going to shut you down"? Is this tied to Amazon's fee structure in any way? Maybe Amazon's like, "Hey, well, they're selling goods at a decent price. Who cares?" What responsibility does the marketplace itself have? Because Amazon controls what is sold on Amazon. If they don't want you there, you're not going to be there. I've known many folks, reputable sellers, who were kicked off Amazon or shut down or otherwise canceled for a period of time for the silliest of things, for the dumbest of things. And Amazon allows its own sellers to be manipulated and taken advantage of through the return anything you want program in any condition you want, even if it's not even the right item. I've heard stories and then seen firsthand examples of people buying a computer or something like that on Amazon and then returning a brick, not necessarily an actual brick, but in some cases, returning an old laptop, like I'm talking nowhere near the same item, saying that that's what they got. And Amazon takes it and seller is then out however much money for the laptop that now they don't have the money and they're getting dinged from Amazon. There's all kinds of problems going on. So I know Amazon can see this. I know they've got the data on that to understand how come, these companies here, Funhouse is one, Mitchell's DVD Funhouse, or I'm sorry, Mitchell's. Sorry, Michelle. Michelle, you're in jail, but you deserve the recognition of your namesake. Michelle's DVD Funhouse, JR Prime and Brooklyn Prime were the three companies. Now, those are all owned by one guy I'm reading now. Okay, so these folks are these three companies owned by one guy, right? They're selling all these different products at prices at Amazon. Well, let's put it this way. If the Department of Justice noticed the prices weren't right, then surely Amazon could tell the prices weren't right. I don't need Bob Barker to come down and tell me the price is right on this one. In this case, it's not. And Amazon knows it's not. So what responsibility do we give to other folks in the marketplace sector to say, hey, you're watching everything else. Can't you watch that? I don't know. I'll leave it to you. I'd love to get feedback from you guys. And I do want to shout out to the incredible viewership we've had recently over our last episodes. Really appreciate everybody jumping in and supporting and providing feedback. I've gotten feedback from all kinds of folks. Some actually said, and I made this big change, so I forget the person's name, but it was on YouTube. And they said, hey, the background music going through the podcast, I don't really like that. It's distracting. So we took it out. Listen, it's a podcast for the people, by the people, right? So moving into something really simple here. I don't know, maybe it's goofy, but I was reading an article about Dude Wipes. If anyone's familiar with Dude Wipes, they've built what should be this year. Apparently, they're looking to report $130 million in sales. Do you know they've only ever taken one investment from Mark Cuban, of all people? They were on Shark Tank, for those that don't recall. They took $240,000 off Shark Tank from Mark Cuban. What I found interesting about that article was that they said that Mark doesn't take meetings or phone calls. Okay, I can imagine he probably gets a lot of phone calls, but why doesn't he take meetings? I got to wondering. Well, it turns out Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Cuban are just three of the big names in the game that don't do meetings, or they don't like to do meetings. And it really got me thinking about how many times have I been in a meeting and thought, "Man, this could have been an email. This could have been a Slack or something very simple. We didn't really need to meet about this." And I wonder if companies who are looking to be more efficient really understand the cost of a meeting. You think about that for a minute. You're taking a meeting, let's say it's an hour, right? And you got a salary employee. And it depends on the industry you're in and who's in that meeting, right? You could have salaries in the 200,000 range. You could have salaries in the 100K, 50K, whatever that is. But you look at those and you say, okay, what's it per hour? A company wide meeting for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, that is extraordinarily expensive. I mean, that thing could cost you 50 grand just to do one meeting. I know trade show companies, they sell really nice spots and such for 50 grand. You could do a whole show, get your stuff there, back travel and everything, 50,000. Think about what you could do for your company right now. Somebody walked up with a check for $50,000 and said, "Here you go, here's 50 grand. Do whatever you want with it." How much money could you take back as a business if you really looked at those meetings and thought, do I need to do this meeting every day, every week? Does it even need to be every month? Does the all hands meeting we do every other, whatever it is? Maybe we don't. Maybe we can just send out the slide deck, you know, and you can conduct with your normal managers meeting. Hey, what you guys think of the town hall slides? Any questions? Like, does it have to actually be the way that it is? How much money could we really save if we do? I mean, let's really start to think about that. And I'd love to get feedback. I always ask for it. I do mean it. I love your feedback. It's fantastic. I read everything. I pour over it for hours. No, I really do though. I really do appreciate it. But when you look at this, like for instance, most of these guys these are all obviously all billionaires. So whatever. We're not comparing apples to apples. I get it. But if we look at the example of a billionaire saying, "I don't find meetings beneficial," right? So most of them will only attend a meeting if it falls under two criteria. One, in across the board, are they giving them money? Is someone writing a check? Then they're there. They'll do that meeting. Um, or I think it was Bezos has a strange rule. He said he won't attend a meeting where two pizzas won't feed the entire group. Now, one of two things could be going on here. Maybe Mr. Bezos just really, really enjoys pizza, but he only likes to buy two pizzas when he gets his pizzas. So maybe Bezos has like a weird pizza thing. What's that called? Like an OCD type thing where he's got to buy pizzas in twos, and then they can't have any leftovers. Like you really got to finish those two pizzas. Like be the one guy or gal or person who gets like three slices, because everybody else has got like two. Let's call it two. I think two's a happy medium when it comes to getting a pizza. Like if you go to a company function and you're like the first or second or wherever you are in line, really, other than the end, and you get two pizzas, two slices, two whole pizzas. No. I meant slices, two slices. I'm trying to work on my figure. Right? So you get those two slices of pizza. You're okay with two. You're okay. You can get a cheese and a pepperoni or whatever it is. Get your two slices of pizza and move on. If you were to grab three, hey man, what are you doing? Hey, hey, my person, what's happening right now with you? You got three slices. Ain't nobody else got any slices. You can't be that person. I think we can all agree. But comment down below How many slices of pizza do you think is a good normal? But maybe Jeff is one of those guys. I don't know. That or he's saying it's not worth it having a meeting with 10 people. It doesn't make sense. When you look at the way companies train, like as an example, I work in software as a service. And the most common way that onboarding is done is where one person from the software team trains two, maybe three on average super users. And then from there, in their different their different disciplines, let's call it their different disciplines. So they'll train, hey, you're a warehouse manager or you're a front office manager or you're a C, whatever it might be, right? They're training these folks in their super user of their discipline, and then those folks go in and bleed down the training to other people. You might have some little crossover here and there where those folks will get on together, but more often than not, that's the way software as a service is typically trained on. Meetings feel like they could be the same way, but I don't know that we really need to have the entire department on the same meeting talking about the same thing. Really, that's what middle management's all about, right? You've got your VPs and your execs, your directors, all those folks leading the vision, making decisions on direction and all these things. And that comes down into your management team. And the management team is what then brings the vision forward with the day-to-day operations. Like, this is a very simple corporate structure that I think we sort of miss in this meeting culture where we're all getting together. And I don't know if it's a COVID thing or not. Yeah, I wonder about that because, during COVID, we couldn't be together. So we had to do this, like, group meetings became more popular. It was more common to see larger meetings because folks wanted to talk to each other. They hadn't seen each other, and it's like we used to be in the office every day and now we're not. So I feel like that culture, meeting culture, really blew up during the COVID days, and it has just kind of continued on. And things like this kind of highlight, do we really need the entire company on this meeting, or could we maybe get away with just having a few folks? I will leave that up to you guys to decide and comment on it. Let's have a conversation on what we feel is the best way to go about that. Other things I'm looking into right now, good grief, I'm getting a little bit tired of AI. I don't know about you guys. The subject makes me a little bit sleepy. It seems like everywhere I turn anymore, it's conversation on AI. And I'll give you an example, and I'm not going to go into any names or any specificities. Specific. I can't say that word. It's too early. I literally have a coffee that I haven't drank because I'm the only talking head here today. So my body's like, hey, dude, I can smell that coffee. You take your little sip. Without going into specifics, let's just keep it simple. Oh, goodness. I was at a forum recently, and it was sort of a smaller event, local event here in Louisville. And there was talk of AI, and Chat GPT over and over and over again. Kept coming up through this whole speech. It's like half hour ish kind of speech on AI and Chat GPT specifically, because I think that's the only buzzword anybody really knows. They're not familiar that there's 16 or 17 different leading AI companies out there right now. More known, less known. Chat GPT is the only one everybody really knows of, or most people anyway. So the first question, the end of the thing, hey, you got any questions? Thanks so much. Raise their hand. They say, what's Chat GPT? So yeah, this whole thing on Chat GPT and this and that and all. And the first question was, and most people in the room didn't even know what it was. So that's, I guess, like a lesson in don't be an expert in a subject no one knows about or cares about. But if you are a subject matter expert in sort of a bleeding edge technology kind of thing, like AI pretty, is, let's be fair, it is bleeding edge. maybe educate people on what it is and why they should care about it. That's like one of the three things in business, right? When you're a product and you're selling to people, one of the most important questions to ask yourself is, why should people care? And I think if you're going to be talking about subjects like ChatGPT, you might want to start out with, why should people care? Because in this case, they don't. And I, for one, am just getting a little tired of hearing about the whole AI debate, because I think it's beneficial, it's been in use, and it's not at any point where we're needing to really worry about it. So until Arnold and his army of what were they, T-100s, T-1000s, his army of T-1000s storm the planet and take us all into human servitude for his cybernetic race called Skynet. Until such a day comes, I'm not going to be too concerned about it. And on that bombshell, I want to thank everybody for watching, liking, subscribing. We are just climbing the charts. I think we had over 200 views total globally of our last episode. And I just really appreciate everybody and your support. Can't thank you enough. Enjoy the rest of your day. And on that note, I'm going to send you away. Ecom out. Now, should I do that? Ecom away. So like land ho, but for ecom.